Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newly revamped Cannon Chat. It's the first time that we've been doing this in quite some time. I believe the last one me and did was back in about February, March time. So it's exciting to get this project up and running again. Obviously, a lot to talk about with regards to Arsenal this summer, and I'm delighted to welcome new panelist to the show, Rob. Rob, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Thanks, James.
Great to hear that, mate.
Mate.
And great to have you back on as well, mate.
I know, mate. It's, I've missed your voice and I missed your company for a few weeks now, but we're nearly there. We're nearly back, and I can annoy you again for an entire season this time by the looks of things.
I wouldn't want it any other way, mate, honestly. So let's get right into the first big bit of business. Yesterday, I'm sure you both know that Arsenal completed the medical for Alexandre Lacazette. That was confirmed by Sky Sports and David Ornstein. Absolutely enjoying that Capri Sun, aren't you? Was absolutely loving it.
Always. Sorry, mate. Yeah, it's tropical as well, so it's a bit spiced up.
It's not the standard orange. No, I love that, mate. Absolutely love that.
I've gone all out for the debut of the season.
Anyway, Rob, I'll come to you first on this one because I'm really keen to hear your thoughts. Lacazette coming to Arsenal. The announcement should be imminent. It should be, if not today, hopefully tomorrow or the day after. What do you think this player is going to bring to Arsenal Football Club?
First and foremost, I'm so happy with it. I'm a lot more positive than I think is, which is a given, I think. But yeah, no, I'm really happy with it. I think that he's going to bring many different aspects to our strike force that we haven't had in a long time. Very, very composed, deadly in front of goal. I know there's a lot talked about his penalties and stuff like that, but in terms of when you get him in front of a goalkeeper one-on-one, I think he's probably one of the best that are out there in Europe at the moment. I'm really happy. I can see him playing as a one or a two. I mean, there's loads. His high work rate is probably something that stands out for me the most. I remember watching him in a video in a training drill for in a pre-season for Lyon, where he's working on his own, and he had like 4 cones set out as a back four on the training pitch, and they're about 20-25 yards apart, and he was literally just doing sprints, as in he was pressing the whole back four, and after every 3 or 4 sprints he had to finish the ball, and it was really good. And I just think it shows his work ethic. I think he's really going to add that to our game, and if we do use the high press next season, I think he's going to be really good for that. So yeah, high press, goals. And I do think he's good on the ball. I mean, he played wide a lot in his youth career, especially in internationals for the French youth teams. So he's learned his trade out there, and he's a dribbler. So I think there's a lot he can add to this team. I know, you think he's not. I don't know what you think, to be honest. Do you think he's going to be a good signing for us?
Look, mate, to be honest with you, for me, the end game, we're looking at people like Kylian Mbappe and people like, look, obviously Europa League and the situation we're in. Right, the only question mark I've got over Alexandre Lacazette, and I've seen what he's been doing in the French league. I've seen his progression, and he's exciting in the way you've described him. It sounds like he is the perfect centre forward to take us forward and take us on to the next stage. But he's never done it at the highest level. Champions League, his record is quite poor. International, he's not really featured. Not that that's a bad thing. My question is that he isn't tried and tested at the highest level. And to be honest with you, at 26 years of age, this could be the time where he will explode. And the thing for me is it's a little bit of a mystery, because we can see what he offers, and obviously he's deadly. His goal scoring record speaks for itself. The penalties aside, he's still got plenty of goals, and you can see his threat and his danger in the way he plays football, and you've described him absolutely brilliantly, Verds, and maybe the bit of versatility in there will help as well. But I think I'm going to have reservations until I actually see him step out on the pitch. But I mean, how can you be an Arsenal fan and not be excited about a £50 million centre forward? I mean, I'm not being funny. I'd have to be the grumpiest, most stuck-up person in the world, which I'm very close to being when it comes to football. But I'll tell you something now, I am excited, and I'm really, really looking forward to him now. It's over the line, and the official announcement later today, I suppose, will be seeing how he'll integrate to the squad. But for me, I'm not entirely sure it's a massive, massive upgrade on what we've got, but what it is something very, very different. And for me, it's an addition rather than a replacement, and that hopefully is the way it is.
So staying with you, do you think that maybe the reason why you can't really get behind this signing as much as, say, someone like Rob can is because we have been linked with Kylian Mbappe this summer, and maybe Lacazette feels as somewhat of a, I don't know, I wouldn't say downgrade, but it's kind of a bit disappointing that we missed out on Mbappe and we're getting what would appear to be second choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's the excitement, and I mean, we know Mbappe is only 18, and I talk about not being proven at the highest level. He's had just a year, and to be fair, he did perform in the Champions League and international stage. He's not done it yet. He's not had the opportunity, but he's looked very bright, and we can all see with Mbappe that, I mean, he's going to be the best in the world. As simple as that up front. Touch wood, he don't get injuries for the lad in his career, but he is going to go on to the next level. And I think with Alexandre Lacazette, there is a possibility that, say, for instance, someone like Higuain or someone like that, he could flourish between the ages now of 26 and on into his early 30s. If he continues scoring at the rate he has been, and at the end of the day, as a centre forward, putting the ball in the net is a very, very big thing to do. And we'll see how he adapts and we'll see how he gets in. But yeah, it sounds a bit snobbish that, oh, I want this striker, I want that striker. But at the end of the day, mate, we're Arsenal Football Club. We've pronounced that we're going to be competing with the best in the world. And on the pitch, I'd like to be doing that. And Lacazette certainly isn't a signing to be shrugged at. And yeah, maybe it is a sort of looking at Mbappe and thinking, oh, what could have been? But you never know. The talks are that we're still in for Mbappe. I mean, personally, I think this Lacazette deal has knocked the Mbappe trail on the head, to be honest with you, mate. But yeah, look, we've got him in the club now. I've got to be excited. I've got to back him. I've got to get behind him. And of course I will. And maybe, you never know, maybe in 2 years, 3 years' time, after Lacazette has fired us the 3 titles, Mbappe will come and join him.
Yeah, I'd like to say, personally speaking, it's a very shrewd bit of business from Arsenal. I think for 50 million, we're not really letting any other clubs have an inkling at him. I know that Atletico were previously in for him, but due to their transfer ban, they couldn't get him. So we've got it done. We've got it done early. We've not done what we tend to normally do, like we did last season with Mustafi. We haven't left it drag out for the whole window. He's going to be integrated with the squads. He'll get the pre-season under his belt. Hopefully, he'll go on the tour to Australia, and then he'll be bedded in, barring a horrific injury. He'll be ready for that game against Leicester on the first game of the season. So for me, consistent goal scorer, very, very threatening striker, is a great addition to what we've already got, a great alternative to the likes of Welbeck. If we can keep Olivier Giroud, great alternative to him as well. And then we've got Alexis Sanchez that can play up front as well. Fingers crossed he remains on at the club. But as I say, as a whole, I think we can all agree he's a signing that is going to improve the squad. And Rob, coming back to you, the way Arsenal are getting their business done this transfer window, we've already signed Kolasinac. We're now bringing in Lacazette. We've only spent 50 million minds, which isn't a massive sum given the quality of player we've brought in. 2 players that will immediately improve the first team. How excited are you for the upcoming season?
Yeah, it feels I'd say it's refreshing, isn't it? I mean, when was the last time we've got sort of transfer business done this early and this like swiftly, if you like? I mean, especially Lacazette. Getting that over the line is massive for me. And if we do get him on the pre-season tour, then he'll get to integrate with the team, and we'll try and avoid the disaster that we've had, well, for the last few years, where we've had sloppy starts, especially last season against Liverpool. So having a Kolasinac integrated in the squad early doors is really, really good. Obviously, having Jack Wilshere back as well, which we'll probably talk about later, is really good as well. So getting the squad there, no international tournament from the summer, I think we should start strong. I'm really, really excited for it. But as long as we add another couple, we can keep some of the other lads more than happy. And I think we can all be excited, regardless of the fact that we're in the Europa League.
Oh, definitely, mate. And sticking with you, Rob, we have seen a bit of a shake-up with regards to the Arsenal backroom staff. Jens Lehmann is reported to be becoming an Arsenal coach in the coming days. Are you excited by that?
Oh, mate, do you know what? I'm buzzing for Jens Lehmann to be back at the club. I cannot wait to. I mean, obviously, we're not going to see behind the scenes, but you can just tell, as you know, what he's going to bring to the dressing room. He doesn't take any sort of crap. His professionalism was well known when he was at the club. He was like model professional. So I think he'll definitely get some players into shape. And if they're stepping out of line, I'm sure he'll let them know. I know Steve Bold likes to think that he's got a bit of a hard touch, but I think bringing in Jens Lehmann as well, he really is going to sort some people out, which will be good, which will be really, really good. I'm really excited for him to be there.
No, I totally agree with you, mate. And was coming over to you, Rob mentions there someone like Steve Bold gives off the impression that he's somewhat of a hard man, but I think we all know that behind closed doors he is, I hate to say it, but in a way Arsene Wenger's yes man. He does give off the impression that he's sort of a bit like a nodding dog to every Arsene command. Do you think with the addition of Jens Lehmann that is going to change? Do you think the coaching staff will have more of an input in Arsene Wenger's managerial tactics?
Definitely with Jens. I mean, mad Jens. Even watching him as a player, we used to love the antics he got up to as an Arsenal fan, and you can see. I think he has got. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but he has got that invincible mentality. He has got that aura about him. He's got that disciplinarianism that you can look at him and think, "Don't mess with this geezer. If he tells you to do something, you're going to do it." And there'll be players of all. It's not just about being winners and things like that. I mean, every single player from top to bottom will get it in the neck from Jens Lehmann, and that winning mentality he had in his career, and almost, I'd say he seems to come across that he really just does not care who he upsets and what he comes up with, and hopefully that feeds through from top to bottom through the coaching staff, because although Arsene Wenger has been given this new 2-year deal, and obviously a lot of people were against it, some people were for it, but the situation is that we did need a bit of a shake-up, and my God, Jens Lehmann, he will be in there to shake things up. So, and I also think it will certainly aid our goalkeepers. I know Petr Cech has got a wealth of experience, but we're going to have to start looking beyond Cech very, very soon. And it opens a question about what's happening with Wojciech Szczesny, because God knows what Szczes and Lehmann would get up to together. I couldn't imagine the carnage that them two would cause on the training ground. So, at the end of the day, I think it's a stunning addition to the backroom staff, and it's something that did need to happen. And maybe what we have seen with the stagnation of the on-the-pitch performances, and I'd say the off-the-pitch situation over the last few years, maybe Lehmann is the guy to cause a bit of magic.
I certainly hope so, and I hope that this is the beginning of Arsenal bringing in more previous players. I mean, we know that Tony Adams was sort of shunned from the club, but it's very important from my perspective that we get these Arsenal legends in a way integrated back into the team in some way or another, because it is going to be inspirational for our current team, and they have got personalities that I believe can aid this squad. They come from winning mentalities, and that should only benefit this current group of players that you would hope are going to be pushing for the league title next season. Coming back to you, Rob, was briefly mentioned there the future of Wojciech Szczesny. Do you think that Jens Lehmann is going to play a part in Szczesny's future at the club?
You'd like to think so. I mean, we can all see, well, after the loan spell he's had at Roma, we can all see the qualities that Wojciech now could bring back to the club. I mean, we all know he had talent, but there was a question of his attitude, of course. But yeah, I think Jens could definitely make a convincing argument to keep him at the club. The only problem is he's not going to. It's likely that he won't get minutes while Petr Cech's at the club. I, for one, would love Wojciech Szczesny to stay. I just think the timing's off. I don't think he will stay, unfortunate as it is. But then I do like Emiliano Martinez as well. I think he's great, and I think Lehmann could have a massive impact on him as well. But unfortunately for me, I just don't see Wojciech staying. I just can't see it. With the circumstances as they are at the minute, I just don't see it feasible for him to stay at Arsenal Football Club, be happy and develop as well. I just can't see it personally.
We'll stay with you as well, Rob. Let's talk very briefly about another goalkeeper that we've got. You mentioned there Emiliano Martinez as well, but the future of David Ospina has gone rather quiet. He was rumoured to be going off to the Turkish league, I think it was Besiktas, for about 3 million. What do you make of his future at the club? Do you honestly think that there's any sort of tangible future for him at Arsenal?
I mean, again, it's hard because he's obviously getting to a stage in his career as well where he's looking to play regularly. He wants to be a number one at a club. And again, maybe this season, I can't see him breaking through into our squad as the number one keeper. And the problem with that is we've seen qualities from Ospina as well. And we know he's put on some really, really good performances. PSG away last year was incredible. It's one of the best goalkeeping performances I've seen in a long, long time. But again, his circumstances are not helping him at the moment. And I just feel that he will probably end up moving on as well. I can see Martinez becoming the number two, but as sad as it is with Ospina, I think he will probably leave the club. as I can't see him playing second fiddle. But I would love to have him as a backup. I think he's a great backup option.
I suppose in a way for us, we're quite blessed with the amount of goalkeeping options we've got. We've got Petr Cech, who you would assume is your automatic number one, but if we can keep Chesney, that's a good number two in there as well. And Martinez as well, who's about 24 years old, good up and coming keeper there. I personally think David Ospina is as good as gone. I don't blame him for leaving. I think he can definitely play regular football for a decent side in the Europa League, or maybe just pushing the Champions League. He's a very good keeper in my eyes. But then we've got young keepers coming through as well. I don't know if Matt Macy has much of a future at the club, but Ryan Huddart, a keeper that certainly excites me. Big, powerful man. And I think he's got a big future at Arsenal, I would hope. But goalkeepers aside, don't want to go on that for too long. Other transfers I'll come to you on this one. We've recently been linked to, first of all, Thomas Lemar in Monaco, and he was a transfer that really did excite me. But more recently, it has been Riyad Mahrez of Leicester City. Not a lot of clubs seem to be in for him. I know that you've got mixed opinions on this potential transfer. How would you feel about Mahrez coming to Arsenal?
I'd rather talk about Tommy Lemar. No, with Riyad Mahrez, look, it's obvious that he had that golden season, didn't he? Where he was absolutely fantastic for Leicester City. Where Leicester City, as an entire squad and his entire team, were on the ball. They had teams. They were sat back. Teams were pressing them. Mahrez and Vardy on the spring. Last season was a bit of a different story with both Leicester and Mahrez. I think they both suffered where teams began to get wise to it, sit back in, let Leicester have a bit more of the ball and double up on people like Mahrez. And he had an indifferent season from it. And he's got to this stage of his career where he has only had one really good season, and it was a fantastic season, and clearly won PFA Player of the Year. And we could all see he's got tricks and flicks, but I'd question his attitude to the game. I'd question his ability to track back. When he does get caught 2-on-1, I'd question, has he really got it in his locker to consistently beat men? I'm not going to completely slate Riyad Mahrez and go, I don't want him at my football club, because I certainly think it would be a good addition to the squad. But again, I think it would be more of an addition rather than someone who would be walking into my starting 11. And we've got players. For me, it's more about the flexibility and what he could bring in and the differences of styles. But I mean, really, definitely in this situation, I would say that if we did sign Riyad Mahrez, it would simply be because we couldn't get hold of our prime target, which would have to be Thomas Lemar, because he is a fantastic footballer and I think he is made to play in that two behind at the Arsenal. But yeah, I mean, we all know, we've all seen Mahrez have that golden season, and the big question for me is, could he replicate it at Arsenal Football Club, and could he replicate it in a situation where the team has a lot more possession? But again, he's surrounded by better players, so you never know, do you? But I wouldn't be jumping up and down, to be honest with you, mate.
What I will say to you is that we've already got Theo Walcott, presuming we keep him on the club, and I am in complete agreement with you. Scored 19 goals last season. He's a fantastic outlet for us, and he has practically given the best part of his life to Arsenal. So for me, it would be a shoddy idea to move him out of the club. He's got a good, I think he's got a good attitude as well now, Theo Walcott. He's a revamped player, and he does have that outlet for us. But if we are to revert back to this 4-2-3-1 that we so often play, then on that right-hand side, to have the options of Walcott and Mahrez, two very different players. Walcott that will sprint, won't take it beyond the man. It's not particularly his strength, but he's very good at getting the ball across goal, putting it in the box, creating problems for opposition. Mahrez, a player that is very tricky, will take it round the man. For me, if we have those two options, then that's going to be very exciting for us. If Mahrez is to play, I think Mahrez can play in the two behind the striker, or he can play in that 4-2-3-1 system. And it gives us options. It gives us rotation within the team. It's the exact same with the striking position. Lacazette, Giroud, Welbeck, Alexis Sanchez, if he stays. Very different options there. Even Chuba Akpom, if you want to throw him in there. So for me, a lot of different players that we've got in this squad. And Rob, coming back to you, what would you make of the signing of Riyad Mahrez from Leicester?
So, I take on board what Woz says, and I think, well, people that go down the 12 pins will know that I'll flip whatever he says and try and make something else out of it. So I'll try and put a flip side on this Riyad Mahrez argument. So, what I will say is I'd agree with you, James, in terms of the fact that I think he will become, if he does sign for us, I think he'd be a very good squad addition. Not necessarily a world beater, but something different, something that we haven't had in a long time, actually. A wide player that will get the ball and run at a player and more often than not actually beat them. So, I mean, yes, last year Leicester had a very indifferent season, didn't perform anywhere near the levels that they did the season before, obviously, Mahrez included. But I think with Mahrez being at Leicester, he was their chief creator, right? So the fact that he was doubled up on is because Leicester didn't have anyone else that I'd say that opponents were scared of in terms of when they had the ball. They didn't have any sort of creativity, really. Mahrez was the outlet, especially it was a sort of case of give him the ball and see what he can do with it. If he came to Arsenal, I would say that Mahrez would not be the player that is necessarily the player that is sort of going to worry opponents most out of everyone else. So I can't see him being doubled up on. And if it does, it's going to free up other people in the team to do the damage. So what I will say is when Mahrez does get the ball as well, he will automatically get defenders on their heels, because no matter what any defender says in the world, anyone with the ball running at them, they absolutely hate it. And that's something that Mahrez will bring to us. And in one-on-one situations, I think, as he showed 2 seasons ago, he's very, very good at it. And I think with a better team around him, I think there's potential that he could definitely flourish. Whether I'm completely excited by the prospect of Riyad Mahrez joining Arsenal is another matter. But I think I'm willing to give him the benefit of doubt. I'd like to ignore the season that he had last season, because if we were to go off that basis, then the title-winning Chelsea side last year, the year before that, they come 10th. And a lot of players had a lot of indifferent seasons. Yeah, Eden Hazard's, Costas and stuff, and they got absolutely slated by the fans. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that season, on last season on Riyad Mahrez. But yeah, I think he could bring something to the team, definitely.
So we've already spoken quite briefly about Thomas Lemar, but for you, Rob, you mentioned there that you wouldn't be maybe overly excited by Mahrez coming into the team. Who would you rather have if it wasn't for Mahrez?
I think Will summed it up quite well. I mean, Thomas Lemar is young. He's a really really good prospect, super talented, and he's already shown it. Yeah, I think Thomas Lemar would be, again, that is the sort of signing that would excite me. And it's just, again, I can't see that potentially happening just because of the money that we're going to have to pay. If we do sign Thomas Lemar, that would lead me to think that we would be getting rid of Alexis Sanchez, because I can't see us signing a Lemar, a Lacazette, keeping Ozil, keeping Sanchez, and keeping all of these attacking players and keeping them all happy. It's not something that I can see as feasible. But yeah, I would definitely choose Thomas Lemar over Riyad Mahrez.
For you, surely it's quite a mouth-watering prospect to think that we can have a front four of Mahrez, Ozil, possibly Alexis Sanchez and Lacazette.
See, you know what I'm like. I like my width, and if we're going to revert to 4-2-3-1, Mahrez and Alexis will offer you absolutely no width. Then you've got fullbacks who are being asked to advance up the pitch. Again, we're in the same scenario we was before we reverted to 3-5-2 or 3-4-2-1, and we're going to have centre-backs being pulled into wide areas, exposed. Xhaka, Ramsey will take the brunt of it in midfield, and it's all because of our shape. I mean, I think you do have to have that width. I really do think, because I think the team is more solid. And with Mahrez coming in off the right, Alexis coming in off the left, we're going to create a cluster. We're going to be relying on Bellerin and Kolasinac or whoever is going to be playing to provide the outlets. And then we're going to lose possession. Possession gets turned over quickly, straight down the other end. Bosh, we're in trouble again. So I don't think my mouth would be watering. I think it maybe. I think I'll be seething a little bit, because look, like I said with Mahrez, I think it would be a fantastic addition. But I suppose that does come down to exactly how we approach the game and how we utilise these possible new additions into the squad formation-wise, mate.
So for you, you mentioned there about the possible different formations we've got. We saw towards the back end of last season, we played with what appeared to be a 3-4-3. Do you see Arsene Wenger possibly going back to a 4-2-3-1? Or, I mean, for me, it just makes sense to continue with this 3 at the back, and then in the games where we need to play a 4 at the back, then we can revert to that. It's good to have those options. What would you be looking to do?
Mate, I was astonished, and I couldn't really understand how the 3 at the back system would work at the Arsenal until I actually saw it implemented in front of my eyes. And the first few games, I thought it was a struggle. But the more and more you watch it, and the more and more you look at the individuals in our squad, I think it is, for me, it's a shoe-in to stay. I mean, You look at the defenders, every single one of them will benefit from it. Mertesacker can sit as the controller in the middle of the park. You've got Gabriel on that inside right of the three who would be superb. Mustafi, who can play a number of roles. People like Rob Holding, Koscielny, Monreal can tuck in as a third centre-back. It gives us so much more solidarity. Then you've got Gibbs and Kolasinac on the left-hand side, or Monreal as well. You've got Bellerin. It gives Ox a role because then he has actually got a role in the team rather than just being bit of this, bit of that. So then your midfield pairing, they're both more protected. It gives the Xhaka to sit in deep, gives the other midfielder the freedom to go. And then also, I think with the incoming signing of Lacazette, I think it would be interesting to see whether we adapt to maybe going with one behind and two up front. So sort of a 3-4-1-2, as you like, with maybe in some games with Lacazette and Giroud. Or it's all about keeping our options open. But either way, mate, personally, I wouldn't be marrying myself to... obviously, we want a style that we implement and we follow that. And I think we have started doing that with the results we had towards the end of the season. But that's why, for me, people like Theo Walcott, it's vital that they stay. People like Giroud, because if we do need to suddenly switch and we do go sort of back to the 4-2-3-1 scenario, I think it's vital that we've got a winger that can provide the width. So it's going to be horses for courses. There's a hell of a lot of games to play throughout the season. But personally, I really, really do hope, and I'm encouraged by his signings, that he is going to continue with this formation that give us quite a bit of success considering the short amount of time we implemented it at the start of last season.
So for you, do you not believe that Theo Walcott has a place playing in that two behind the striker?
I think that Theo Walcott will have to accept that he's not going to be a first team player for Arsenal Football Club next season until there's horses for courses and there's scenarios. There'll be times in games where the formation isn't working, and at the flick of the switch, all of a sudden, you can take one of the centre-backs off, put Walcott on, and the whole game completely changes. You push Walcott wide on the right wing, drop the full-backs back, midfielders are in, and all of a sudden, we've gone from three at the back, and then we're back to 4-2-3-1 with a fast winger. So, and especially with Oxlade-Chamberlain as well, the options there. I just think it's more about being flexible, because I think the squad is in a magnificent shape, and we all want a couple more additions in certain positions. But for me, looking at it, the question is, and I discussed this so much last year with Clive, and our argument is that does Arsene Wenger really, really know how to utilise a squad, how to make real big decisions in games to change things, to change the course of a game? And that, for me, is the biggest criticism of his management for the last few years, that his in-game management has been quite poor, and the way he utilises the squad, keeping players fresh and things like that. So we're building a magnificent squad, and I actually think we had a great squad last season, but it's more about the way you use it, and that is why I was disappointed with the 2 years for Arsenal. But let's see him go again, and let's see if something happens, because we've got to get behind it now, mate. But yeah, I certainly think we need to stay flexible and just try and utilise the squad as best as possible.
Yeah, definitely. When we heard the news that Wenger came out and was signing a new 2-year deal, I think it was greeted with, for the first time, really, with more people being upset about it than happy about it. I think that was the sheer reality, given the way last season concluded. Even though we won the FA Cup, we finished 5th. We're going to be playing Europa League football this season, and that's a consequence of us losing 3-0 to the likes of Crystal Palace. There were some very poor results last season. But as you say, with the versatility in the squad, with the players Wenger's bringing in, with this shake-up in the backroom staff, it is, dare I say, a new era for Arsene Wenger, but it is somewhat exciting to see us making these changes. And coming to you, Rob, I think it's only fair that you get your take on this. But how do you see us lining up on the first game of the season against Leicester City? Do you want to see us lining up with back three, or for you, are you more suited to the four at the back?
No, I'm definitely. Last 10 to 12 games last year, I think it's only right that we start as we left off. To be honest, I think the three at the back definitely suited us. If you take away the Tottenham game, which they were on like hugely good form, so we'll ignore that. But other big games, you just have to look at the FA Cup semi-final and final. I haven't looked that assured in big games for such a long time. Everyone seemed to be really buying into the system, which was really good to see. And it's obviously got us results towards the end of last season. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it suits the players, like was said, to a T. And we've got a lot of options and a lot of versatility in terms of there's players that can play multiple positions. So in terms of the squad that we have now, I think we have to start with 3 at the back. But like again, Woz says, I think there's certain games where we will have to mix it up, and Wenger has been guilty of not doing that in game. But for me, 3 at the back has definitely has got to be the one. It just depends on who's fit and who we sign, and who's going to take those 11 spots on the first day.
Sticking with you, Rob. We're all talking about this fantastic squad that Arsene Wenger is building and the different players in different positions, but keeping hold of some of these players is a completely different matter. Theo Walcott, a player that could potentially leave the club. Oxlade-Chamberlain coming into the last year of his contracts. Alexis, Ozil in the final years of their contracts. We've heard so much about them in recent weeks. But Aaron Ramsey, another player coming into the final year of his contract. Not all of these players are necessarily dead set on playing for Arsenal Football Club next season. What ins and outs do you think there are going to be with regards to these current team members?
So, I mean, it's hard to gauge because, as we all know, we've been a bit of a selling club over the last few years. We've let player power really, really take over. Van Persie, Janazris, Fabregas, etc. Are we finally going to see change where we see the club actually put their foot down and say, look, you're under contract with us. We are not getting rid of you. You are staying until the end of your contract. We're not bothered about getting a transfer fee. If we are to change, then you can see the likes of Alexis and Bellerin staying. But then what negative impact does that have on the squad? I don't think personally I would like to keep someone that is completely against playing for the Arsenal. I mean, if Alexis Sanchez does not want to be at this club anymore, I think it's a case of we get as much money for him as possible and we replace efficiently. Because there are players out there, and I've said this on my Twitter account as well. I'm not saying that there's one player out there that could directly replace Alexis, but I imagine that there's 2 or 3 that could come into the squad, integrate, and combined have an effect, have a similar effect to what Alexis does on the team in terms of numbers. But I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain's another one. Is he going to be involved in this team? If Bellerin stays, you can't see him playing on the right hand side. Centrally, you're not looking past Xhaka, Ramsey. Even as much as I hate to say it, he doesn't really get looking over people like El Neni either. So I think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's one that potentially, again, is going to be surplus to requirements. So it's hard to gauge what we're going to do. But if we are to lose a few, then I do think we've got to get some in, definitely. I mean, there's the right-hand side really worries me, actually. Whether we play 4 or 3 at the back, just because we're so light there. We could potentially have a Bellerin that isn't too sure whether he wants to stay. Apparently, there's a transfer request been handed in. Oxlade-Chamberlain might be out the door. And then I don't think Debussy and Jenkinson are adequate enough cover to be in this squad. So I think that's a major thing that's gone under the radar a bit. And we definitely should look to strengthen there.
Yeah, definitely. Coming to you, Woz, we have heard in recent weeks that Bellerin has had a supposed transfer request rejected by Arsene Wenger. Good to see us taking that ruthless approach for sure. And he has last 6 months ago signed a 6-year deal. So to hand in a transfer request at this point seems absolutely absurd. And with a World Cup year coming up as well, I think, even though I am in agreement with you, Rob, that I wouldn't want to keep players that don't want to play for Arsenal at the club, in the back of these minds, the World Cup is going to be something that they're going to be thinking about. They will want to put in the best performances in order to be starting for their national team. But Woz, coming back to you, where do you see the future of someone like Alexis Sanchez?
Yeah, I think Rob hit the nail on the head really with Alexis. I mean, I've had my gripes with Alexis, and Giles tweeted a great stat about this guy compiled all statistics and how dangerous it is, the amount of times that Alexis does lose possession, and we're punished more than any other player. And there's not another player in the top 6 Premier League clubs that are in that list, and he's top of the list. So we all love Alexis Sanchez because of his drive, his ability on the ball. But I just think that if he's going to play in the 2 behind, I prefer a bit more security, a bit more someone like Thomas Lemar. Now I'm looking at Lacazette coming in, and I'm thinking, right, he's going to be our number 1 centre forward. Alexis Sanchez probably going to play behind in the 2. So for me, if Alexis Sanchez doesn't want to be at the club, and don't get me wrong, I want to keep him, of course I do. I'd be an absolute I'll be bonkers. Do you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, if he doesn't want to be at the club and we can command a fee for 50 million and put that towards Thomas Lemar and pay over the odds, I wouldn't be upset. I really genuinely wouldn't be upset, because for the first time we've actually gone out and replaced that player. And we talk about the goals and assists and numbers and all that. The season Van Persie left after we scored 37 goals that year, we scored another 12 goals the following season. So we brought in players, we brought in Giroud, we brought in Cazorla, we brought in Podolski. We can replicate that scenario, but Lacazette is a very good signing. It's a very good start. We've got players in the squad that can get goals. If we bring in another wide man, we bring in someone behind the centre forward, I don't see it being a huge problem. I don't want to lose Alexis, but if that scenario come, then I think we'd be stupid not to take the money and reinvest, providing we reinvested.
It's funny you mentioned there about Van Persie and the fact we scored 12 more goals the following season. I mean, I just can't look past the fact that United won the league that year with Van Persie. And I feel like if we were to sell Alexis Sanchez to Manchester City for a fee of £50 million, then we'd half-heartedly be expecting them to win the league next season. You look at their players they've got up front. If they were to sign Alexis, they'd have Alexis, Jesus, Aguero, Sane, Sterling. I mean, they've got an abundance of talented players. And for us to sell to a Premier League rival would be a massive backward step for this club. But if we could offload Alexis to Bayern Munich, who seemingly have pulled out a race, or Juventus, or a club that want to sign him, maybe PSG will come in for him at some point, then if we were to replace him with someone like Lemar, I think we could adapt our style of play. And Alexis is what I would say is a very individual player. And if we were to sign someone like Lemar that's a bit more of a team player, that would really benefit the squad in my eyes. But we'll wait and see how that one pans out. Obviously, I want to keep Alexis, and hopefully he will remain on the club. But staying with you, I thought it was a very interesting point that Rob made about the right sides of Arsenal at the minute. If we are to sign Mahrez, we've got Mahrez and Walcott on that right-hand side. That's a big if, that's a big but. We've also got Chamberlain there as well, if he is to remain at the club. But a right-back, Bellerin, who some are assuming is unhappy as he's handed in this transfer request. We've got Debuchy and Cole Jenkinson playing in behind him in the pecking order. Do you think maybe we should be looking at a right-back this season?
I think yes, but what I do think Arsene Wenger will do, that if he is changing to this three at the back, obviously if Oxlade-Chamberlain is willing to stay and fight for his position, that's not such an issue. But if he has to play as an orthodox right back in a four, it's not happening. So what Arsene Wenger has done in the past and what he will probably continue to do in this scenario, I believe, is utilise people like Gabriel. He's promoted Ainsley Maitland-Niles to the first team squad, who I think is an absolutely fantastic talent, and I really do think he could have an impact in the squad this season. Personally, in the middle of the park where he's best suited, but you know what Arsenal's like. I remember him using Coquelin quite a few times at fullback in the past. Could it be one of them situations where money is spent elsewhere and he just makes do? But if we're going to stick with a four all season, I think that's a stupid game to play, and it's very dangerous because you're one injury away from a bit of the disaster. But if it is a three at the back, the emphasis isn't so big on this signing, really, because I think if in the odd occasion we do go four, I think there would be sufficient cover if the disasters happen. But I think, three at the back, we'll be fine with regards to the fullback area. But four, if he's going to look to play four all season, I think we could be in trouble, yeah.
No, definitely. I'm in total agreement with you there, mate. Be interesting to see how the future of Oxlade-Chamberlain develops over these coming weeks and months. But coming back to you, Rob, one player that has also got his future up in the air at Arsenal at the minute is the notorious Jack Wilshere, just come back from his honeymoon. So congratulations to Wilshere on what appeared to be a very expensive and luxurious wedding. One I can only dream of one day. But it's an interesting one.
You've got to get a missus first, mate.
Oh... That's all my dreams crossed right there. Let's not talk about my disastrous love life. Rob, we'll come back to you. For you, do you see Jack Wilshere having a place in this Arsenal squad next season?
Arsenal squad, yes. Arsenal first 11, probably not. But I do think if we're going to use the squad wisely and rotate, I think there's plenty of games for him to play. We saw last season how many games he could have played if he'd stayed with us. If he gets himself fit, I think he could definitely play 20 plus games next season. Whether he wants to do that is another matter. Obviously, again, like you say, it's a World Cup year. If he could get back to fitness, he will definitely want to be playing regularly week in, week out. But the thing with Jack is, if he does get into the team, and he does get a run of 2-3 games, there's no reason why he can't grab a place in a team. And even if that's whether it's with in the 2 with a Granit Xhaka, or I could see him even playing in behind the striker in the 2 behind the 1 as well, because he used to play in an advanced role in the youth teams with us. Used to play as a number 10, and he used to work his magic pretty much every week down at Underhill. So he's definitely got the capabilities of doing it. So as a squad player, I think he's perfect because he can play multiple positions. As much as we wouldn't want him to do, he could even do a stint out wide. He's done it before for us. But yeah, I love Jack Wilshere. I would hate for him to go permanently. Would love to see him back in an Arsenal shirt regularly. But again, it's circumstantial. If he can get a run of games, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see him back at Arsenal in some capacity as well. And he has got, we all know that he's got that talent to break through into the first team. If he does get a run of games, if someone like Ramsey's out with a hamstring for a couple of games, he can come in. And if he does stay injury-free, which I know is a massive, massive ask, and we say this almost every season, if he remains injury-free, he'll walk into the starting 11. But he's had that spell at Bournemouth now. He's built his fitness up. Props to Eddie Howe, because I think he's done a brilliant job in keeping him fit, bar that rather unfortunate injury at the end of the season, which could have happened to anyone. Had an almost injury-free season. So for me, very excited to see Jack Wilshere back. And I know you're absolutely itching to talk about him. So how do you feel about Jack Wilshere potentially coming back into the Arsenal team?
Listen, mate, I know everyone, we talk about his injury record, we talk about his history and all that, but let's remember how many years Robin Van Persie was like that before he finally blew. And I think next season, we forget Jack Wilshere's only 25. He come onto the scene at such a young age. 25 is no age. It really is no age for a footballer. And look, this guy, when he's fit, he's got the lot. I'm telling you now, he has got the lot. And personally, I wouldn't have loaned him out last season. I think he could have had as much game time with El Neni, the amount of game time El Neni and Coquelin and that guy. I think we could have seen him at the club last season. But I'm happy that he got 29 games under his belt. And like you said, Cookie, he was very well managed and they've done a great job there. And he's unfortunate with the injury at the end, but it was an impact injury. And the thing with Jack, the thing I love about Jack and Aaron as well, to be fair, if we're going to play this free, I think the midfielder alongside Granit Xhaka has to be progressive. They have to be front-footed. They have to be a man that is going to break through lines and burst to support the lone striker. And I think with Jackie Wilshere, he could play alongside Xhaka. We've seen, I don't know if people remember it years ago when we had Wilshere Ramsey side by side against Man United at home. That was just after Ramsey was getting back from his injury, and they were fantastic that day. And the sky's the limit. It's just about fitness. And I think if we can, again, it goes back to my point about managing the squad properly, because the rotation for games is certainly there for everyone. And I mean, at the start of last season, I don't know if you remember Leicester away, we were drawing 0-0, and Jack Wilshere and Ozil come on. And the intensity, the tempo, the speed of our game went up 20 times. And that is what Jack Wilshere gives you, his drive, his power. I can understand what people's frustrations about him, but I'll tell you something now, like Rob rightly said, when he was younger, in that number 10 role, he's a magician. And I could certainly imagine him playing in the 2 behind the centre forward. And I could certainly imagine him playing alongside Granit Xhaka. So I think and the same goes for Aaron Ramsey. And also, like you said, in a 4, you could push him wide. So the versatility and the ability to be adaptable is something that you cannot underestimate from these players. And you could replace Jack and you could get rid of him. But the first person I'd be sort of replacing is in another sort of area like El Neni or Coquelin or something like that. But with regards to Jack, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. If we can convince him to stay at the club, and same with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, if we can convince him to stay again, just even give us another year and see how it goes, I think we could be onto a really good thing, because it's going to get to a stage where it's make or break for these players. And I think Jackie Boy, like Verd said, he could have a run of games and that could be it. He could be gone and he could be fit as a fiddle, avoid injury, and we'll be laughing, because he is a super, super talented footballer. He's underachieved him throughout his career. No two ways about that. From when we saw him against Barcelona, but I ain't giving up on him yet. And as I say, his adaptability is something that certainly I'll be keeping him in the squad. I wouldn't be looking to sell him, and he's homegrown. So please stay, Jack, and hope he stays fit and we can have a good tussle for places and actual depth in our midfield.
Do you know if he's fit to travel on the tour to Australia?
I think he's back. He's back. I see photos of him back in training, but I'm not too sure whether he'll be included on that tour. But again, it's a kind of situation we're in where we don't need to push Jack. And I understand this World Cup year and he'll want to play, but I'm pretty sure himself he won't want to push too hard, and it becomes a time where comfortably with the Europa League, the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Premier League, he could easily be clearing 35 appearances next season, easily. Him and Aaron Ramsey, all of them between them, there's certainly options to keep this squad ticking over, and hopefully that's what happens. But yeah, I'm not sure if he's fit, mate. But again, if there's any slight doubts, and he's coming back from an impact injury, so it shouldn't be too bad. Just get him fit as a fiddle and have that option there, because last 20 minutes, if you bring him on to freshen up the midfield, he's going to explode at you.
Let's hope so, mate. Rob, coming back to you, how do you feel about the futures of maybe was his favourite player, El Nene and Coughlin, coming back into the team? Do you think they've got much of a part to play next season?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think deep down they probably know themselves that they are just squad players. They're never going to be they're never going to be players that are going to cement a place in our first team above everyone else if everyone's fit. The problem is everyone isn't always fit. Strange. If we keep Wilshere, obviously there's been the reports about Cazorla as well. Not too sure what's going on with him, because obviously there's been all the stories about the setback and stuff. But then he's posted something this morning, hasn't he, saying he's in the gym and he's getting stronger and fitter. So God knows what's happening with Cazorla. But El Neni and Coughlin, personally, I don't feel that they are good enough to rely on as backups. I would definitely be in the market for an upgrade. But then it's hard if you want to go a better quality. It's hard getting people in that you bring them to a club and you say, yeah, we want to bring you in, but you're not going to play much. You're just going to be backup. To get to have players that are happy with that and to have them at a standard that we want them to have them at is really tough. So, I mean, I think they'll be around for the next couple of years, I could imagine, but I imagine it's just going to be filling in here and there, and we'll use them as rotation.
Sorry, mate, but what about Ainsley Maitland-Niles? Do you think he's ready to make the step up? And do you think he's got the quality to improve on them too in the middle of the park?
I wouldn't say. I don't think he's had enough. I don't think he's had enough top level experience to come in and say yes, he's going to be a better option than El Neni and Coughlin. Yeah, I don't think so. Not just yet. I mean, with Maitland-Niles, the fact that he's only just been promoted into the first team squad, I think if we can just get him involved as much as we can afford to get him involved, I think he's definitely got potential to do things with us. But I think I mean, personally, I would rather an El Neni and Coughlin if we had to, like with injuries and stuff.
So you would sign a CM?
I think I would. Yeah, I think I would.
I think I would too, as well. To be fair, we've been linked with Seri of Nice, and he seems, I think, with the options that we've got and the injury record that we have, having someone a bit more versatile than Coughlin and El Nene is only going to benefit this team. I don't know about you, Was.
Yeah, I mean, the issue for me in the midfield, obviously, I think we've got a number of players that can play that role alongside Granit Xhaka, and with the three at the back and the three at the back and the two wing backs, it gives us the sort of, who's that? Hello. It gives us your phone call. No, it gives us the it gives us the freedom in the middle of the park to have that guy alongside Xhaka who can be the box to box man. And you've got Ramsey, Wilshere, Ox. There's a lot of potential there. But the thing that worries me is if we see Granit Xhaka get struck down, touch wood, we don't, and he plays the whole season, but he's going to need a rotation. And with what Granit Xhaka gives us with the balls through the lines, we can compensate a bit with the centre-backs because we've got very good ball-playing centre-backs. But I still worry if we lose Xhaka, we have got nothing of the similar ilk, someone who can sit that in that deep line midfield role. And maybe, we haven't spoke about him yet, but I'd like to see in lesser games, someone like Callum Chambers maybe have the opportunity in that position, because I remember watching him, and when he first come to the club, on the ball, he was absolutely magnificent. And he's naturally defensive. He wouldn't be front-footed. He would provide that screen. And I'm not saying I'd obviously rather bring someone in, but I'm saying there's an option there from within the club to maybe find someone who can can also give that rotation for Xhaka in League Cup games and the odd. But again, it's a difficult scenario. Certainly, with the injury records of Ramsey and Wilshere and even Ox, you'd be looking to bring in another CM definitely. But who do you get? Do you go big time and people like Naby Keita and just pay loads of money for him? And I think he's an absolutely fantastic footballer, Naby Keita. And you got Goretzka and people like that. But I'm of the opinion if Aaron Ramsey stays completely fit, he's better than Goretzka. I'm of the opinion if Jack Wilshere can get fit, it's sort of like the Lacazette situation. We're going to wait to see how it develops and find out. And hopefully, if it all falls into place, we could have one hell of a season on our hands, mate.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Rob, with you, was just briefly mentioned there, and I'll keep this one brief, on Callum Chambers, a player that had I'd say a successful loan at Middlesbrough, had a lot of games, a lot of them at centre-back, but also played a fair few at right-back. For me, definitely is suited to that right centre-back position. Do you see him getting much time at Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, with Chambers, it's a tough one because obviously when he first joined the club, coming at centre half, and he first 5-6 games. Remember the Besiktas away game when he had Demba Ba in his pocket, absolutely battered him. He was unbelievable, and we thought, right, this is it now. It's Callum Chambers centre half for the next 10 years. And then he got obviously put out to right back, and he got given a torrid time by Jefferson Montero, which we all can remember quite vividly.
Wish I didn't.
My opinion on, yeah, exactly, yeah. My opinion of Callum Chambers is he's definitely got a future at our club. I really like him as a player. Like Boz says, he's a really good ball player, and I do think he has the potential to play in midfield. He'd have to obviously learn the trade, but I think there's potential for him to do that if we wanted to invest time in making sure that he could actually play that position. But what I see Callum Chambers this season, now I'm against Was slightly centre-half wise in the terms that I'm not the biggest fan of Gabriel, like not really his biggest fan. So what I can see personally is Mertesacker not going to play a lot this year. I'd see Mustafi and Koscielny as our two regular main centre-backs. And then I see a really good opportunity for the third centre-back, if we are to play the three, as a rotation between Chambers and Rob Holding. I think it'd be good if we can sort of give them an equal amount of games over the season. As much as you don't want to disrupt the defensive line, I think it's a good opportunity to develop both at a similar rate, because I think they could really both have a long and successful career at Arsenal, both of them in a back three together. So I think there's a good chance for us to develop both of them.
Yeah, definitely. I'm incredibly excited personally to see how Chambers will develop. For me, he's definitely got a place in this team, and I think a lot of the players that we've got that maybe we kind of shunned out as players that aren't good enough to play for Arsenal, maybe someone like Gabriel, we found a place for him in this back three. He did seem to be absolutely unreal in that FA Cup semi-final, and at right centre-back, I think certainly we've got a place for him here in the squad, whether it be starting, whether it be on the bench, all these options that we've got. For me, defensively, it's the first time that I've been quite excited in a while. But final question really, how important for you is it to get a good pre-season under our belts heading into that first game?
Very important. Very, very, very important. I mean, we've had a handful of players at the Confederations Cup. Well, 2 players at the Confederations Cup. I mean, the last time Mesut Ozil had a full summer, we all know what he'd done. He had 19 assists by Christmas. So, look, all of these players, Jack Wilshere, fitness, Aaron Ramsey's, at the end of the season, he come into a real run of form, real run of fitness. He needs to continue that. He needs to stay fit throughout pre-season, work very hard. People like Walcott, Ox, all these players need to really knuckle down, because there's going to be a big, big competition for places at the club. And I'm pretty sure we'll have maybe 1 or 2 more additions on top of the 2 we've already got. There'll be fresh faces in the squad. Jens Lehmann will be barking out orders, beating people up on the training ground. I'm hoping that the tours go well. I'm hoping that all the players, touch wood, stay fit, and we can really, for the first time in a long time, turn up to our first game of the season ready to go, knowing exactly what formation we're going to play, knowing exactly what players are going to be starting, and then we go from there. Because let's be honest, last season was nothing short of, it was just shambolic. It was shambolic. The way that Arsenal Football Club was managed into that season was beyond belief. And thankfully, we've got 2 deals done very, very early, which is great to see. We're making additions off the pitch. We're still in the market for other players. We've got players coming back from loan. We've got players keeping fit. This new formation has bred a new life into everyone, even me, who's the most downbeat negative geezer you've ever seen for the last 3 years at the pub. I've been a horrible, horrible man to be around. But this season, I'm fresh. I'm looking forward to going into it. And well, stop laughing, you. I know what you're thinking. I'm just, I want the exciting times to come back to Arsenal Football Club, and I can't wait to be a part of that next season. And we'll see how everything progresses. But we've got reason to be excited. And even though it's a bit of the same old with Arsenal, I think it's very, very different to anything we've experienced summer-wise, sort of for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years maybe. So, yeah, fingers crossed we have a good pre-season and we have a very, very, very successful year.
And final question for you was, when do you think the signing of Lacazette will be?
What time?
Well, today, tomorrow.
I think it'll be today. I don't know, maybe about 5:05. And I'm not sure how they'll announce it. Hopefully he's like, I don't know, could do some little catwalk, I don't know what they'll do.
Well, that's the problem. They probably got it all sorted. They're just
fancy things.
For you, Rob.
Hopefully they announce him with an Mbappe mask on.
For you, Rob,
mate.
when do you think he's going to be signed?
Sorry, mate, say that again.
When do you think we'll get him signed? We'll take a little bet on it, you know.
I reckon it's going to be 25-5. 4:35 English time.
So you're both pretty confident it'll be today. I think the club might hold off till tomorrow.
Well, I just had a little text message from the guys doing all the paperwork. That's all done and dusted. So it's just how they're going to unveil him now. Oh,
quality, mate. I can't believe, to be honest, that you've actually kept that Capri Sun going this whole hour. It's unbelievable.
No, but I have two.
Oh, you got a fresh one. Capri Sun's on tap, mate. You're living the life, mate. I am.
Mate, we are buying multi-packs. Yeah, multi-packs.
This show is going places, I tell you. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there. I think
the real question of this though is how many games in are we going to see the first roly-poly from Petr Cech after training with Jens Lehmann?
Yeah. I can't imagine.
I'm going 4 games.
I can't imagine him doing them stretches that Jens used to pull out the bag.
No, I don't think anyone can. I think those were very unique to Jens. Yeah, as I say, anyway, we should probably wrap it up there. It's been a wonderful hour chatting with you, lads. Was, as always, massive pleasure, and hopefully we can carry on with these over the course of the summer and long into the new season. Absolute pleasure, mate. Where can people find you on social media?
They don't really want him, mate. Just listen to me on here. Put a load of rubbish on there.
No, he's not wrong, to be fair. And Rob, yourself, absolutely brilliant to have you debut on the show, mate. Thanks for all your input in getting this started as well. And again, hopefully you can be a big part of this going forward.
Yeah, loved it, mate. Honestly, really happy to be involved. So, yeah, the more the merrier. And let's keep going with it.
Rob's fairly new to Twitter as well, blokes, fellas, gals, whatever you... I was going to say guys, but I just got massively caught up there. Make sure to give Rob a follow on Twitter, get his following up, and of course, give Cannon Chat a follow as well. We're trying to get as much stuff out there as possible. Again, thanks to everyone that tuned in today. Brilliant viewing numbers for the time it is in the day. I hope that this has brought some light to your lunch break. And enjoy the rest of your day. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this, and we'll try to get another one out next week. And as I say, we'll continue this over the course of the season. Once again, lads, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. From myself, Was, and Rob, thank you very much for watching, and we'll speak to you soon. See you later.
Good night.